What do you believe Washington's red line is to actually get involved in this conflict directly?
Thanks, Dan. Well, I think that there would have to be, if a number of American citizens were killed, clearly if American bases were attacked on a broad basis or if there were significant casualties, but especially American deaths, that would force the president to get at least a little bit more directly involved to tell Iran not to do that. And that would be, through shooting a couple of Tomahawk missiles or something of that nature. But the other thing would be if they attack shipping, because once this affects the global economy, now you're threatening President Trump's administration. You're threatening the Republican Party's rule over the term of the president. And that would be something that the president would want to stop. And of course, all presidents have an interest in protecting American economic growth. They don't want the Middle East periodic conflicts to weigh on the U.S. economy, push up gasoline prices. So those are the things that Iran is really not allowed to do. But as we're seeing, if they're losing energy production at home and they know they're going to have social unrest and a dysfunctional economy as a result, which they really already do, but now it's going to go big time, and they're also losing their nuclear deterrent, at some point they're going to have to start using their asymmetric military capabilities and basically warning the U.S. that they can create a very large oil shock if the U.S. does not restrain Israel. So that's I think we'll have at least minor oil shocks coming forward as Iran does demonstrate the capability to affect the oil supply.
And indeed, to your point, it would seem as if energy is really the Achilles heel for President Trump and this administration. So to that point, how close do you think we are to a Strait of Hormuz shutdown? That would certainly be the most severe in terms of impact on the energy markets. It hasn't happened before. Of course, we've seen Iran and the Iranian proxies threatening that type of shutdown. But how close are we to that point?
Well, it's a much higher risk than it ever has been. I've followed the issue for 18 years, and generally speaking, the consensus, which I generally have not agreed with, I expected this attack of Israel's. The consensus has been that Israel would never act unilaterally and that Iran would never go so far as to close the Strait of Hormuz. But having said that, if Iran just attacks Hormuz now and shuts down the shipping, then they guarantee that the U.S. intervenes and wipes them out. It finishes the nuclear program, cripples the nuclear program, and then also adds to the pain that will be undermining the political stability of the regime. So, I don't think they want that. I think the only reason they would shut down the Strait of Hormuz would be if the U.S. is already intervening. And effectively, if the U.S. provides Israel with the ability to finally take out the rest of the nuclear program, or if the U.S. gets directly involved to do that, then at that stage, Iran would have a really tough decision. But they may well believe that by inflicting a huge global economic shock through closing Hormuz, that they would deter the U.S. from getting any further involved. The U.S., of course, would retaliate and punish them severely, but then there would be an inclination to try to actually reduce the war and try to back off. And if they're already going to lose their nuclear program anyway, they have to face the reality, like Libya or Ukraine, countries that give up their nuclear programs can still get attacked. So they might have to fight if they think they're going to lose the nuclear program.
Matt, it seems to me that right now for Iran, right, their options are shrinking. They're getting increasingly limited. We were talking about the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, if they do that, this is an economy in a country which is already under severe sanctions, right? They're also shooting themselves in the foot by not allowing their oil to get out in the rest of the world and be sold to make them foreign exchange, right? The other potential option in terms of striking back, their proxy power through the Houthis or Hamas or Hezbollah, that has been greatly diminished as well, has it not?
It's true, and really the arc of dominance that they had tried to create in the Middle East has fallen apart with Syria and Hezbollah and with the Houthis. But having said that, though, they do have a few. We cannot clearly say that the Iranians have retaliated fully yet. I mean, first of all, they can time things appropriately, so they may not retaliate immediately to the overall conflict that we're having. They may wait. They have to retaliate to Israel immediately, but that's a separate issue from whether they try to affect the global oil supply at some point in the future. The other thing is that they can try to conduct attacks in the region through proxies. Even though these have been wounded, they're not necessarily completely incapable. So we could see Hezbollah try to take action. And again, there's an issue of time. Maybe the Iranians will back off today because they know that they're overpowered by Israel and the United States. But really, as Israel keeps pushing, as I'm highlighting, they'll probably have to front load their retaliation. And I think the biggest place that they would hit would be Iraq. They could probably take out Iraq's oil production and exports, and it would basically remove the spare capacity that OPEC has in the region, and it would signal a powerful signal without causing such a big oil shock like Hormuz that the Americans would be guaranteed to intervene. So I think we will have at least minor oil shocks, and I think Iraqi production is top of the list.